I get this feeling I can't fight it.
I'm Henry Gilkey. I'm here with one of my longtime best friends, Juddy. Say what up, Juddy.
What's up?
He's on the ones and
What's
twos. He's a good sport.
Sweet.
We're joined here by Austin, Texas native Dave De La Garza, better known as DLG. He's a multi-instrumentalist, producer, songwriter, graphic designer, self-promoter, stop-motion guru, and general renaissance man. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Of course. I want to walk through kind of how I first found you and just make sure I've got your whole career story straight. So I actually first found you with Never Know in 2019 when I was in college, before COVID, and I was blown away because it was just really catchy and unique, and it sounded like honestly like a Billboard Top 100 song. And I looked at your account and stuff, and I was like, where the hell did this guy come from? You have trappy bass lines and drum beats that are kind of juxtaposed with acoustic strings, jazzy chords, soft vocals. You got horns, a little bit of everything. And we talked a little bit before this, and I found out that you're the sole producer on the track, and you just had a friend from college join you so you could get a female vocal, which was really impressive. I would not have believed that at the time. What made you want to start kind of releasing singles onto Spotify? I know you had one before that. What kind of prompted you to start releasing stuff?
Yeah, I'll keep with me. Yeah, man. So, I mean, I've been playing, I'm playing guitar forever. I got into kind of making my own music and recording my own stuff, I guess when I was 12, I would say. And hold on. There we go. Okay. My bad. Sorry. This is hectic. Sorry. I had to extend my play. It's the whole thing, but, yeah, I got into all of that and got GarageBand and stuff on my first laptop when I was probably 12 or 13, and then just it kind of snowballs from there, and then eventually you just kind of get to a point where I got a little better, and I wanted to start sharing some of the music, and I had a little SoundCloud project in my freshman year that I was putting stuff out on, and then I don't know, I think it was just my roommates and friends were like, man, I'd love to listen to it on Spotify, I would love to, don't make me dig super deep on SoundCloud, tell people you're putting it out, and it's one of those things that's I don't know if there was any one moment where I was this is what I want to do. It was just kind of I'd always been doing it, and it just sort of slowly snowballed,
Yeah. Okay, so then once I had looked at your profile at Spotify, at least, I saw that you had a song Up Again, which was kind of showcasing a more electronic side to your production, which is present moving forward, especially, with your most recent projects, and also in the features that you include. And I think what struck me the most from the beginning of listening to your stuff was the vocals. I think any of your fans would attest to that. When you were first producing, yeah, of course. When you were first producing and songwriting, and like I said, just deciding to release stuff, were you nervous to sing? I feel even just doing this, it sucks to listen to my own voice, so I can't imagine putting yourself out there and having to sing and release that to the world. That has to be nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I mean, it's not again, it's something that I'd kind of been gaining comfortability with over a long period of time. I didn't just randomly decide I wanted to sing. I've been, I would write my own songs and sing them. I never thought I never trained classically or anything. I took one semester of vocal class in college when I was doing a music major. And yeah, so I think over time you just sort of understand the pockets that your voice likes to sit in, and you just kind of mold, you make something, you listen, you gauge, you think oh, I feel like I don't sound that cool in this, I don't like the way my voice sounds, and you just kind of tweak until eventually over time I understand the directions that my voice can go in, and the directions that it can't really successfully go in. And I just try to, it's understanding that everyone has a certain range that they're good at. It's not every every singer can't sing like, you know, Freddie Mercury. So it's just kind of like learning your own voice as its own instrument that's like unique to you, and just kind of treating it like well, and just not worrying if it can't go crazy high, can't go crazy low, like just thinking, oh, what can it do that's cool? And my voice is kind of gravelly, so I lean into that a little bit, but yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's yeah, I try to have fun with it, and it's just been a learning process, and like I learn more about my own favorite ways of using my voice and singing like every day.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And so moving forward, you release a string of these really good singles that are showcasing more of your range and rapid evolution. Some of my favorites around this time being 2019 to 2020. You have Caroline, Low Mama, and one of your most popular songs of all time being Inside of My Eyelids. Inside of My Eyelids has such a great ease in your vocals, and the production is a lot like Flume and Louis the Child, especially like around that time. That's kind of the music that I was starting to get into around that time. It's like future bassy. And I heard that you'd made that at a library near you in Austin. Is that true?
Yeah. I think that's where I started it. I probably made it between the library and like my couch in Austin. It was a very like, that song was funny. It was really just supposed to be sort of I just made it for fun, and I thought it would be a good kind of in between single for the EP I was working on, and which, you know, it took me a lot. The first EP took me like years to, you know, get to a place that I really liked all those songs. And yeah, it just kind of happened. I just had fun with it. I didn't really overthink it. I think there's like you know, I've tried to never be too harsh on myself. If I'm like, oh, this is too electronic leaning. Like this doesn't fit my indie aesthetic or whatever, or, you know, vice versa. Like I just think if the song feels right, then it's right to you. And you don't need to worry about how anyone else feels about it. So that song is like a great example of that for me. I think it was just a new kind of style for me, but I liked it. It felt cool.
Yeah.
And and I just put it out because I was like, oh, cool. I'll put out a cool single. Just kind of, you know, keep people listening while I work on the EP.
Yeah, and I'm guessing you probably didn't expect that response given just like the manner in which it was made. So that had to be really cool to have happened. And then also eventually that song makes it onto Netflix's hit series You. And so when you were approached with that, did you know anything about like sync licensing at the time for putting it onto Netflix, or did you have like management helping you through that process?
I have a sync agent. Yeah. So it's not as like, it's not as as glamorous as it may seem, but I have a sync agent, and I work with some other sync companies as well. And usually how that stuff works is, you know, you'll be on the show. Well, I'll say this for when it's like DLG songs being pitched, it's different if it's like custom production or like, you know, stuff that isn't like DLG branded. But for songs that are from my catalog, they you know, my sync agent is pitching them kind of, I don't even know what's going on, and then I'll find out like a week or two in advance that it's going to be in an episode of the show, and that's when they find out too. And that's usually when the decisions are made, is like crunch time right before something airs. And then I have no idea what part of the show it's in, and I just will watch the episode and find out. So those things are always fun. It's a big surprise. Like I have a song, Scatterbrain is in Sex Lives of College Girls, which is a HBO show that I really liked already and was already watching. And I found out it was going to be on the new season of it, like, you know, a couple days before the new season came out. And so like I got to watch it, and it was just a show I already enjoyed. Same with You. Like I already watched that show, and it's really fun to be a part of something that you are already invested in, you know?
Yeah,
you know?
That's sweet. So I don't want to spend too much time on this song, but I'm wondering, because you said like on the couch at home and at this library, what was like the sound testing process? Because that song is just really good, just production wise. It cuts through really nice all the different sound design choices that you have. Like, Are you listening to it in the car at the time? Did you have a studio that you could go to, like finally mix and master it? What did that look like?
No, I mean, I think until genuinely until like a month ago, I just produce off of headphones. Like, I use Audio Technica. Like, well, now I actually have a pretty big mix of headphones. I have about 4 that I use, but at that time it was just my audio H50s, the 50Xs, whatever those ones are, the really common ones. And then I had still have Yamaha HS7s. I've gotten some nicer monitors very recent, like 2 weeks ago I upgraded, but the Yamahas are awesome. And I think it's all about like just understanding your equipment. And yeah, I check on everything. I check in my car, in other people's cars, on the phone, speakers, like on a Bluetooth speaker. It's, that kind of final stage of the mixing process is like any artist who mixes their own engineer who does it professionally, I'm sure can attest that like it kind of doesn't even matter how fancy or nice the speakers are. Like I've mixed ATC 150 mains and like beautiful setups, like just insane speakers. You still need to check it on your phone. Like you'll still catch things. It makes the process a million times easier, obviously, to have incredible equipment, and like you have to do those checks way less, but you still want to check it. It never hurts. There's no mix engineer out there who's just gonna like mix and immediately be like, I don't need to check on AirPods. I don't need to because it'll feel different. So yeah, everything I can, I check on on everything I own for sure.
I think that's the way you gotta go, because especially with like more electronic stuff, I feel like if you test something in the car, you're like, oh, this sounds awesome, but then you listen on AirPods, it can vary on what comes through, and then you're just trying to make a bunch of stuff work together and figure it out on the go. So I get that. I think that's cool though, that it has such success without it being like super professionally done with the way that you were trying to figure it out. So once that song starts,
thank you.
Yeah. Once that song starts blowing up, you get a lot of notoriety outside of the U.S., in Ecuador, Mexico, and Latin America. When you first realized these other countries are embracing your music, how did that feel? Like, that has to be a really cool experience.
It's really cool. It's really crazy. I am really like thankful for that experience. And so that was kind of before, now I have a team around me. I have management and and a sync agent and an agent. So I have people who understand the industry and parts of the industry that I have no expertise in that can help me. At the time, it was just me in my bedroom. And so that was a really wild experience. And I didn't even I didn't have a TikTok. I didn't have TikTok on my phone. So I didn't know what was happening for days, for probably about 3 days. And a friend of mine who works in social media marketing and music, I texted him and I was like, dude, I think this is probably TikTok, but can you help me figure out where this is coming from? And he found the video, and yeah, Daniel Mena is the influencer, artist who posted the original post. He's super, super nice guy and really talented artist and just a curator. And yeah, it was wild. It was a unique experience, I think, for sure, because I don't speak great Spanish, so I did find it to this day, I'm working on my Spanish. It's not good, but I want to play in Mexico. I get a lot of fans from Mexico City specifically that want me to play there, and I definitely am trying to make that happen as soon as I can. And it's interesting because it's now I have connections to Ecuador where I've never been, but there's there's a chance that I'll meet someone in Ecuador who knows who I am and can, just provide a sense of comfort in a country I've never been to. And yes, yeah, so it was great. It was a little I don't know if stressful is the right word, but it was overwhelming for sure. It was overwhelming, but in a great way. Yeah.
And just on top of learning the Spanish and stuff, that's always been my hardest thing, is trying to learn a foreign language, even in just high school and stuff. So trying to figure that out on top of keeping on to release music, I can imagine.
Yeah.
But I do think it's a testament to like how good your vocals are that they can be felt beyond the barriers of a language in the first place. Continuing on to 2021, you released Stay Close, which is also done with Coastal, who you just released that new song with. That's your first song with Coastal?
Stay Close, yeah. That was their first song as Coastal. That was like they rebranded. They had a different name before him, but Stay Close was the first one that we worked on together.
How did you meet them, and what's it been like working with them?
I mean, it's been amazing. They're like very, very close friends of mine now, and I love working with them. We have a ton of new music coming out together, and we just met on Instagram. I think Andy just DM'd me and was, said like, hey, I love your music, would love to like, send you some demos we've been working on, maybe do like a Zoom. This was in the days of Zoom sessions, and I was in Austin at the time, and Andy was in California, and yeah, so we did some Zoom sessions and got along really well. And eventually I ended up, when I was thinking of moving to LA, I was visiting like a little bit that year before, and I met Andy and Brett and in person. And yeah, it's been a very easy relationship, which I think is why it just keeps going and we keep making more and more stuff that we love together.
Yeah. I think you guys, just like the collaboration between you guys is awesome, because I know that you also produce stuff, but your vocal in general, I keep bringing it up, but it is really, really good. And these guys, I think, have an appreciation for just like that future bass kind of era when it was first blowing up with like Louis the Child and Flume coming out with like really experimental kind of stuff. So it makes me happy to listen to stuff, and especially that you keep on coming out with stuff is awesome. I'm going to jump ahead to 2022 when you released a Heater EP titled Enfield. Some really great titles on here, including Scatterbrain, The Storm, and one of my personal favorites is Don't Knock. And at this point, at least to me, you kind of started adding this like psychedelic, funky kind of thing, and the only thing I could really relate it to is like Glass Animals sort of type sound to your music. What at the time made you want to release like a full project rather than just continuing to release singles?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think it just it lends more to your overall, just like, I guess, like brand as an artist. And I just wanted to, I think singles are cool, but there's less of a story to tell, and it's less, I think it's really rewarding for me when people enjoy like the full body of work, and there's like, some sort of a through line, and it just gives me more to bite into, I think, as a listener. When I listen to artists that I like, there's obviously singles I love from artists, but albums are really what make my favorite artists like my favorite artists, and not just artists that I like. So the EP, I've wanted to put out, I'll be putting out a debut album next year, and I've wanted to put out an album's worth of music for my entire career. It's just, I think it took up until now to figure out how to do that successfully. And so the EPs were my mini attempts at that, to try to, get like part of the way to the album and learn about that process of putting multiple songs into one place, and how do you create with maybe consistency, and like, is that, really hard to do sometimes, not so hard to do other times, just kind of learning and getting better for future projects, basically.
This is kind of a two-part question, but
Yeah.
do you think that kind of, I mean, in my opinion, because I had started to follow you up to that point, so when that released, I was like, holy shit. I think it kind of established an identity. I want to know what you think about that in terms of just like, once you were producing at the time, do you feel like you kind of had a rhythm there where you're like, this is my sound? And on top of that, another thing that you kind of established here in terms of your identity is the album artwork. And I know you work on that with your mom, if you can go into that just a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I mean, so the first part of the question, I would say I don't even feel that way. Like, I don't even know if I know. Yeah, I think actually this next album, like the album I'll be putting out, is one of the first times I've felt like very very, like, it's really cohesive. It's really cool. I'm very excited for it. It's like definitely the most excited I've ever been for music I'm releasing, which I think is a great sign. I think I always want to feel like that about new music. But yeah, I also, like, I don't know if, I think some of my favorite artists are artists who, like, they kind of let other people decide what box to put them in. But, like, if you think of artists that really last, you know, through a long time, like, they really stand the test of time, it's always artists who just prioritize quality over genre or trends, or, like, you know, people like, you know, Radiohead. Like, what genre is Radiohead? Like, they make everything, but it's Radiohead. You know, you know them kind of as their own genre. And, like, Corey Ma is a great example. Like, you know, every album is kind of a slightly different flair, but it's all him. Like, you can hear his songwriting in it. And so I really aspire to be an artist like that, where, you know, the quality is really what people talk about more so than the genre necessarily. And, but you know, but like also being able to just, like, for one project, maybe lean into more of a certain sound and, like, explore that. And then, yeah, I guess, so for the album artwork, I mean, I've collaborated on artwork with my mom, like, since I was first drawing, since I was like 4 or 5 years old. I loved to draw, and she would take my artwork and then paint it and, you know, give it shading and, like, and colors and make it really feel, like, realistic. And so that was just something we did for fun when I was a kid. And I, you know, like, came to the very natural conclusion, like, this would be an amazing thing to do for album artwork, and just do the exact same thing. And just, I draw a picture, give it to my mom, she paints it. You know, we figure out, like, there's always a middle step where we kind of figure out what colors we want, and there's, like, maybe we do some tests with the coloring, just so she doesn't have to, like, repaint a certain section. And then generally, sometimes if she can do it all in one pass, she'll paint the whole thing in one pass. A lot of the times, like, I would say 75% of the time, to get really crisp lines, she'll paint it in sections and, like, different layers that I will then put into Photoshop. We'll scan them, like, super high quality scans. I put them in Photoshop, cut them out, and collage them basically digitally. So you get this, like, they're very sharp lines, but that has the watercolor texture. And I don't know, I mean, we've been doing it my whole life. So it was just a very, like, it was kind of a no-brainer, honestly.
I think it's perfect because it's, like, even in just, like, comparison with your music and the way that you're talking about your aspirations for how you want it to be received. I think both the artwork and the music is identifiable and recognizable to you, just off, like, the bat. Especially the more that you start releasing, the more, like, as soon as it comes on, I feel like I can be like, this is a DLG song. If I heard it somewhere, a song that I'd never heard by you, I feel like I could identify it immediately, which is a really hard thing to achieve as an artist, and you've obviously done it in a very short time, which is really impressive. Moving forward, you have, like, mixtures of, like, acoustic strings. This is talking about Enfield still. Acoustic strings. You got these funky bass lines, distinct, like, chord progressions, and it's all really pretty, to say the least. The Storm's a really good example of like, the acoustic strings in an electronic format almost. And Don't Knock is another one, which is still one of my favorite songs to this day. Whenever I listen to it, it gets stuck in my head, and my girlfriend will make fun of me because I'll be in the other room singing, praying this high keeps going. I just thought that was a funny thing to point out. But with this project, you said it took you a while. Obviously, you were satisfied in terms of wanting it to be released, but I know that the process of, you know, making these songs, especially over a long period of time, it can be daunting to listen to the same song over and over again, trying to make sure that all the parts are perfect. Did you kind of feel that with any of the songs on here, where you were just like, you finally had to be like, all right, I'm just going to keep it the way it is now?
Oh my God, you have no idea. You get to a point, just listen to the song so many times and you just end up ruining it. And then I'll show it to a friend, and they're like, they're like, hey man, I liked version 2, you're on version 55. Like go back to version 2, forget everything you just did. And they're always right. It's I think something I've learned over time, in my career is just that the quicker you can get the idea from idea to finished song, finished product, the better. Like just making, like everything I've tried and learn how to do better is all about getting quicker and being more automatic with it. And this, so, Enfield was, those songs took forever, and it's really, I'm proud of them. And I think you have to go through that on your way to being able to make songs quickly, especially if you're doing it alone, which, I nowadays do less and less because it's so much less fun than making music with other people. It's so much faster to tap other talented, producers and artists in. But, those ones, they took a while. Every song, I think the older the song, the longer it took me to make, and they get quicker as they go. And the album, this new album, I had a lot of help with. There are a lot of other producers and great artists involved with it, and we made it in 4 days. And we made 35 songs in 4 days, and then cut that down to 15, which then I should be done. I'm going to take about a month to mix them all. I think, let's knock on wood, maybe like a month and a half, and punch up some vocals. But like the track list we left my album camp after 4 days, and the track list was done. The choruses were done. Like the skeleton and like a bit of the muscle of the project was done. Which is like, I'll never make another project a different way ever again. I think it's just so much more rewarding. And now when I listen to those songs, when I listen to old songs now, I like them. Enough time has passed, like I'm not sick of them anymore. But it's nice because these songs are very fresh, and normally I would be sick of them by now because I've listened to them a million times. But now I'm in this place where the more I listen, the more I love them, because it's just they happen so fast. Like I've barely even digested some of these songs, fully. And but yes, Enfield took forever. It took forever.
Okay, so after the EP, you go on a stretch of making some more singles. Another great one I like is Whole Lotta Nothing. And you make a few songs with Daniel Allen. Minutemen, for example, you show some more confidence in your vocals with, it's got this crooning to it on that song specifically. It's kind of like, I don't want to say like Dominic Fike, but it shows some more range in your vocals. And kind of talking about what you said earlier with just trying to find the pockets where your voice fits in. I think you did a really good job of identifying where to go in there. And but going back to Daniel Allen, how did you meet him, and or do you plan on making anything else with him?
Yeah, well, Daniel was my roommate, my first roommate when I moved to LA. So we're just, I met him. I met him just through music, and I think also just Instagram DMs are really how a lot of musicians meet each other, and which is a great thing. It's, we just say, hey, I like your music, and it's like, cool, I like your music. Let's let's do a session or hang out, and. And then when I moved to LA, I knew Daniel, and we moved in together in a house, a crazy kooky house in Hollywood. It was a very LA. I had a very like Hollywood, this house was ridiculous, but it was just some other producers, and we all just were working out of there. And so I ended up we just met a lot of each other's friends, and I think that was like a really nice way to be introduced to the music scene in LA, because I think navigating it yourself without any friend referrals can be really like tricky, and you kind of don't know like what you're getting yourself into. There's a lot of kind of weird people in the industry that you maybe don't want to be associating with, but you don't know that because I'm brand new to this city. So, just living with other talented producers and who could just be like, oh yeah, this is my buddy, he's awesome, you guys should hang out. It was really awesome. So yeah.
into 2023, you have these two mini projects, a part of the 2-on-2 series. You released 2 songs on the second day of the respective months, titled March and April, the 2 that you did. And April's created with Christian J. Can you tell me about him? Because I also felt like those 2 songs felt really cohesive together, and they sounded kind of like the guitar on it gave me like a Steve Lacy or like the internet vibe. Is he a guitarist?
He's a tremendous guitarist. CJ's a really, really talented guitarist. And yeah, just good friend of mine. We lived in like kind of outside of Seattle, on Kitsap Peninsula, just like over the water. We live there. We have another good friend who's a great musician whose family is from there, and we rented a little house on the water to live in, just like kind of in, not like rural Washington per se, but it was kind of out there. We weren't in like a big city or anything. We're just in a little town about an hour outside of Seattle. And we just spent a summer, set up a recording studio in the house, made music together, had barbecues in the backyard. It was a really fun summer, and we made those 2 songs. We also made Crystallize together. And then he has like a whole other little EP that he's been working on. I think a couple of the songs are like demos we started all the way from that summer, but then he's been working on a bunch of other new music since. So yeah, super talented guitarist and just a great human being all around.
I figured. I felt like he left a stamp on that. I could just tell immediately that the guitar sounded different.
No, he's got like, he really has that like Steve Lacy kind of. I love like his chord selection. It's just very mellow and underpronounced, but like just perfect. I'm a big fan of CJ.
So you were consistently posting singles in 2023, and then you released your most recent EP, Characters, which released earlier this year. The song Icy, I just wanted to add that song is a really cool production to me. I don't know what it is. You would obviously know since you produced it, but it's got this like 90s electronic like cowbell sound just within the rhythm that gives me like a Neptunes vibe. But then you have you have these other songs on there that again just kind of point to more general electronic stuff. And then like Dive In, I think, was probably my favorite on the album, and it sounded like, to me when I first heard it, like a song off of Swimming by Mac Miller, which I don't say lightly because I love that fucking album. Yeah, and also the vocals at this point, I can tell a lot more confidence and just like a nonchalantness that is really cool just to hear you. It just seems like you're kind of like whatever, and you're putting it out there, but it's also like perfectly toned, perfectly on time, and you're giving breaks in between. You're not just trying to fill the space with vocals. So that one was really cool. I read at one point that you like creating music around the same time to keep a cohesiveness. Obviously, with your description of your new album being done in 4 days, you're still trying to keep that up. But before it was at 2 weeks. What made you stop at 4 days? Was it that you'd been somewhere that you could only stay for 4 days, or?
Yeah. I mean, we would have stayed there. I would have stayed there forever if I could. But yeah, it was just kind of it was just kind of, I've done some other album camps before, and I've found that just in my, I don't have a crazy amount of experience with it, but in the few I've done prior to that for other artists, I'm just as a producer and writer, I found that from like 4 days to a week it's pretty good. And it's tricky for some people. Some people like might have a day job that they have to work during the week, and so just to maximize the amount of time that everyone can just be there, I decided to do a long weekend with everybody, and that was like the amount of time that everybody could make it for. And yes, we just did a Thursday through to a Sunday, and then dipped. But yeah.
So that was I saw you post about it on Instagram. That is, you're referring to, you guys got like this cabin, right? Where was that?
Yeah, it is actually Andy from Coastal. It's his grandma's house, and she is very sweet, and just is like, cool, I'll vacate for a weekend and let us there. So I'm very thankful for that. It's a lovely place to create, and like we had 2 studios set up, and had a lot of gear. Like I told everyone, just bring as much gear as you're comfortable bringing, because like we will use it. And so yeah, we just had a lot of channel, like everything constantly plugged in, so that there was no moment of like, oh well, let's record this, but you know, we need to set it all up first. Like everything's just running and it's hot, and we can just hit record, and immediately like 5 people can pick up instruments and just play a song. And we're like, cool, idea number 1, like next one. But yeah.
Yeah, no, that looked like an awesome experience, and I'm really excited to hear what comes out of that. I'm going to finish off here with just a couple of general questions. What would you say some of your biggest musical influences are?
Oh, man, so many. I would say, I mean, really early ones are like the Beatles. I listened to a lot of Beatles growing up. They're just master songwriters who are really good at what they do. And it's a cliche. Of course, they're like the biggest band of all time, but they're awesome. And when I was like 5 and 6 and my parents were listening to Beatles CDs and in our car on long road trips, I definitely ingested like what I could from that.
I don't think it's a cliche. That's they wrote the book on songwriting, literally, and making albums and everything like that.
They really did, and it's crazy to think they did it in such a short time span. Like their whole career, all of their albums were out in the span of I think like 5 or 6 years or something, maybe even less, maybe like 4 years, which is now that I do this professionally is crazy to think about. Like they were now I just realize, wow, they were locked in, and they were, they knew what they were doing. And yeah, so, I mean, the old early cliche answer, the Beatles, but like, more currently, I think like I listen to a lot of jazz. I listen to a lot of like indie stuff, a lot of hip hop. Like I love Tyler. I love Vince Staples. I love like old A$AP Rocky was like in high school. I loved, A$AP Rocky was like all I listened to. And
that's me and my friend Judd here. That's like when we were in high school, that was all the shit that we were listening to, like Mac and like Odd Future, all of that.
Yeah, I mean Mac. Okay, like top of the list, like definitely Mac Miller. Definitely like Still Woozy. I do love Dominic Fike. I think those 3 are honestly like I get compared to them stylistically, I think the most frequently, which is like I will take any day of the week because incredible artists. So I think like the whole like bedroom producer era too, like like Claro and Still Woozy and Biba Doobie and like all like that was kind of when I was getting into production, so that influenced like a lot of my maybe choices early on. Just like, and I play guitar, so like I love like some chorusy guitar, but yeah, anything I try to take inspiration from any art I enjoy. And it like, I think you can internalize something from from a painting I like there's something in that painting that I'm able to bring into my music with me. Just like every art has these through lines into each other, and whether it's a wildly different genre, like whether I'm listening to like 60s jazz, that sounds nothing like what I make, or I'm at a museum, I'm looking at sculptures, like all of that. I can really think about like, why do I love this so much, and like what about this inspires me to do something new or different with my music, or the same, yeah.
So earlier you'd said that you'd started with GarageBand. Did you then move on to Logic, or what DAW are you using now to just, let's say, like produce from home when you're just coming up with an idea?
Yeah, I'm an Ableton junkie for sure. Logic's great.
Did you go GarageBand to Ableton, or did you go GarageBand to Logic?
I went GarageBand to Ableton. Yep, I had a friend who, my friend Josh had Ableton and was like, hey, Ableton's cool. You should get Ableton. And I think, whenever I get asked by people who are just getting into production, like, I think some people, it's funny, in the last couple years, I've noticed people just assuming this like Ableton supremacy. And which like there's definitely every DAW has its things it does well, and Ableton is especially kind of cracked out. Like it does a lot of wild stuff. That being said, I think it's most important to just get the same DAW that your friends are using and like the people you could call up and ask a question to. Just use the same program as other people you know, and you're gonna be fine. Because the best producers I know, no one has any consistency with DAW. Like I know an incredible producer who uses Fruity Loops. I know an incredible producer who uses Reason, which is Reason's an awesome one. I didn't even know what Reason was till I met him. And he is like a Reason wizard. And yeah, so I think, yeah, I love Ableton, and I know how to use Logic, like definitely not as quick as in Ableton, but Logic's, I really like it for tracking like live stuff and just getting like demos in. Ableton is where I like to like get down to, you know, really nitty gritty. But they're all good, man. Yeah, they're all good.
I think that's a good point. People that are starting out to do something that your friends are also using, because you'll get a lot of help there versus scrolling through like 30-minute YouTube tutorials.
Yeah. YouTube is like music advice on YouTube, like production advice specifically, like 20% of it on YouTube is the best advice I've ever heard, and the other 80% is horrible. It's like this minefield of you're searching through a minefield for like gold nuggets. So it's stressful. It's better to just have friends who like, you know, they use it too, and they're like, oh no, I've been doing this, and you're like, oh great, I'll do that.
Who are some artists right now that you aspire to work with?
Oh man, I like so many. You know, I think I love Torimo. I mentioned him prior. I've always loved Bad Not Good. I think they do really cool like collabs, even though they're like, you know, their stuff is so jazz, and I just been fans of them forever. Yeah, so many people. I think honestly though, like the thing is I've also learned that working with like the biggest, coolest artist, and, you know, getting in that big, crazy, fancy room is never nearly as good as just being in the room with your friends and like people who you really trust. So any day of the week over working with like some, you know, mega popular, like I'd love to work with Tyler, the Creator, you know, like amazing. But I promise you, like, I'll probably make better music with people that I like know and trust really well. If that person is Tyler, the Creator, then amazing. But, you know, a lot of the times, like that person, like for me, like Coastal's a big one. And like I really don't work with people that I don't feel that way about, and that I'm okay with telling like, hey, I don't love this idea. Like I'm going to tweak that. I'm going to twist this. Like, let's, you know, and like not having pressure to make something is really important, I think, with musicians. And, like, you know, all of these musician friends that I mentioned, Coastal, Slender Bodies, like a huge one, really like mega shout out to Slender Bodies. They've been a like massive influence for me just in like music and my career in general. But they're just like good friends. Like I would hang out with them and not even open Ableton or not even, just go do shit. Like all of these people are good friends of mine that I frequently don't make music with. We just go hang out, go get a beer, go to parties together, like just normal friend stuff, which I think is really, really, really critical to making really good music, is just being really comfortable and knowing what you want and like being super ready to listen to what the other person wants and like trusting them and just knowing that like, hey, I really like, I know this person has good ideas. And so I know we can get to a really, really cool place, and I don't have to feel weird if we leave the session and like we made a horrible song, which happens all the time, you know? And it's like, and if I left the session with some massive artist and we made a horrible song, I might be like, oh, dang, like, what are they thinking about me? Meanwhile, it's like, you know, I make a horrible song with one of my friends. It's like, we don't give a shit. Like, let's work together again next week. Like, I don't know, let's play video games, do whatever. So, and that's, yeah, I'm going to try to, you know, I want to maintain that through my whole career, because it is really how the best stuff is made. And it's fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, with like all your features, especially the people that you're talking about just being your friends, I think the more stuff you guys make together, the better it gets, and the more comfortable and like experimental I think some of the stuff gets, just in terms of like when you're sitting around in that group. I imagine now, having made music with someone for a long time, then you're more comfortable, like you said, to be like, I don't like this part, or like to walk away and be like, well, that was shit, but who cares?
Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, it's fun. It's a good process that way.
So you said you grew up playing guitar and that you don't have any like vocal training or anything. I know you play other instruments as well. Did you just learn those off ear because you played guitar before and you can kind of apply those same things, or have you been like trained in any other instruments?
Not at all. I just bullshit any other instruments I'm playing, if I'm being real. I did play upright bass for 2 years in middle school. So I actually I did technically learn how to play the upright bass. I do know how to use a bow for any for a bass or a cello or something, or a violin. I sound horrible now playing it. It's been a very long time, but I did at one point learn how to do that. Piano, I think I took in college. I tried to take advantage of some of the random electives and stuff for music, and just I'll take a trimester of piano or whatever. So took a little beginner pianos course just to learn how my fingers should probably be moving, and I'm not just totally ruining my technique. But I'm also horrible at playing piano. It's not it's not that big a thing, but guitar is the one I feel very comfortable picking up and jamming with and playing. And then the rest I can kind of take what I know and just move very slowly at my own pace and make something eventually sound good.
Okay. So when you're coming up with melody lyrics wise, or I guess vocal wise, do you have a process that you've been sticking to, or is it kind of you'll have a beat and then you're okay, I think I want to sing over this now, or sometimes you'll start with vocal humming that you have? What does the process look like for finding a vocal melody?
Yeah, I mean, vocals I'll almost always, especially nowadays, I just kind of freestyle over them, and I'll just let the track play, or whatever I have of the track, or if I even, maybe I'm just playing the chords on my guitar, I will just kind of riff and just say whatever comes to mind, just kind of flow. And generally that's when all the best ideas come out. It's just that you turn your brain off and kind of let yourself just do what feels right, and it kind of flows out. And then you can, if you record it, you can kind of go back and be that almost sounded like I was saying this word, and that word fits really well there. And then it's it can spark ideas when maybe I think having a little, maybe just a seed or a kernel to nucleate around for the idea of a song, really it's once I have that kind of oh wow, that word makes me think of all these things, and that really lends to these chords, then it's just easy. Then it just becomes it just kind of flows, and you're amazing. I know what the song's about. I know what I want to say. I know I've found what I'm trying to tell people, and usually you just kind of have to let yourself subconsciously come up with that. It's, if you force it, it's a lot harder.
Yeah, it might come off that way if you try and force it as well. So you have these stop motion videos that you've been doing recently, which are super cool. What was the inspiration for that? It looks really painstaking to do.
It is. I mean, honestly, I gotta give a huge shout out to my mom for just instilling the love for painstaking art into me. She's I always used to make fun of her because she has all these crazy art pieces she makes, and she once dried leaves, collected leaves, pressed them, dried them, cut them into slices, glued the slices together into longer slices, and then wove them into a 6-inch by 6-inch little kind of quilt. It's woven leaves. It took half a year to do, and I used to make fun of her. I was you picked the hardest art to make, and now I'm out here just printing out paper and stapling it all over my neighborhood. But I don't know. I think for me, nowadays, for better or worse, artists have to consider a video element to the music, and I prefer to think of it like that than content. Oh, you got to crank out whatever bullshit, like production tips. And I definitely like, you know, when you're surrounded by all that and you see that stuff working, it definitely, your brain goes like, oh, I have to do that if I want to be successful. And like, I'm, you know, I'm definitely guilty of like just trying to be like, oh, well, maybe if I can make a video every day, it'll be, and I think I just got to a point where I was like, anytime I tried to do that, I hated it. I was burned out. I just took a step back and was like, I don't know why. Like, I wouldn't do that with music. You know, I would never do that with music. I put a lot of care into stuff, and I don't want to put it out till it feels like something I really like. It's like, why don't I just do that for the videos too? Let me just, you know, if I need to post like a reel or a TikTok, instead of trying to stressing myself out and trying to post every day some stuff I don't really like, just like take 2 weeks. Screw it. Like, take 2 weeks, make a cool piece of art, and then put it out. And I would go for runs in my neighborhood, and there were always all these like posters. There's like one pole in particular that had all these posters on it. And I just remember, like, I had an idea for doing like doing posters that were like for like a cleaning company, or like a missing poster, you know, and then having my image like in all of those and having it kind of flip through them. Turns out it was really time consuming to like superimpose my photo into a framework of another like fake poster. And then, so I was like, you know what, let me just print out just the picture of my face and put it on the telephone pole. Yeah, do it all. Just remove all that, you know, kind of get to the core of my idea and save myself like weeks of work. But yeah, and then it like it was like one of the first things I ever posted that resonated like that with people. And I was like, oh, cool. Amazing. I don't know why I was so stressed about conforming to some like, you know, really quick content, kind of like attention-y, like just like, look at, like, here's my new song. Like, I was like, I'll just make cool shit. Like, I don't care. And you know, because I care. I do, like, I mean, genuinely, I do care. I don't want people to like watch shit I post and be like, that was corny. Like, and then like, and I, you know, it just didn't make sense to treat the video part of my art any different than the music part, I think, after a while. And I'm glad I made that choice, because they're fun. I like making them. I make them when I want to. There's something coming out, but I don't stress myself out about them.
No, I think they're awesome, and they do a good job of being like engaging. It's actually cool shit. It's not just like, oh, this guy's like promoting a song or anything like that. I think your message there kind of makes its way through. Another guy that you said that you've been friends with for a long time is Pluko. You worked with him on a couple of different things, or actually, you worked with him on characters in the song "It's All Good." And I've heard a bunch of his stuff before, and I never made the connection that you guys had ever been friends. What's it like working with him, and can we expect more stuff with you guys?
I hope so, man. Sam is like all over the fucking world, which I'm so stoked for. We're just, you know, I think this past year we haven't really been in LA at the same time as much, but like, yeah, he's a good friend. And I met him when I came out to LA. So probably like 2.5, 3 years ago now. Well, oh my God. Yeah. Like 3 years ago. And yeah, just, I mean, talk about someone who like artistically really knows what he wants. Sam is like, I mean, he's been doing it since he was really young. Like, before I even had an inkling of what Ableton was, Sam had like a music career, and he's just he's like a very mature dude who's just very good at what he does, and like puts a lot of care into, like, you know, the videos and the merch, and like, I mean, he designs all his own merch and like sources he's just like, he's all in it and really cares about the quality of every part of his shit. So I have nothing but nice stuff to say about him. And he's the man, and he's fun to work with. And yeah, I think we made that one. We were just at his house in LA, and we were just having a session when, like, grabbed some coffee and then sat down, worked on an idea. And then I think I was playing a guitar loop, and then we threw it into Ableton, and he was like, I'm going to chop this up. I'm going to make some crazy shit. So the final loop is not actually what I originally played. It's him picking his favorite chords out of what I played and then like sequencing them. And yeah, and it was just great. It was easy. Add some drums, like riffed a little melody, wrote some of the words. And yeah, that was a pretty quick one. And yeah, great dude. Sam's awesome. He's always working on new music. I very much hope he didn't work on my new album, but I'm sure we'll be working together again in the future.
Yeah, that's cool. And like the more that I've gotten into him and stuff, like he has such a range as well. Like he can make something that's like just like really pretty and like has these like wide synths, but then he'll also have something that's like incredibly heavy but still just like cool as hell. So I thought that was really cool that you're friends with them and work together. I only have a few more questions for you, man. I'll get you out of here. What's something people don't know about people from Austin, Texas?
That's I don't know. What something people don't know about Austinites? I mean, I don't know. There's not a lot of secrets to us. It's a pretty chill city. Everyone is, I love Austin. Austin has great food, which I think gets slept on quite often. I'm in New York right now, which is kind of like pretty impossible to beat as far as food goes. But Austin is it has much better food for like a city of its size than I think I realized. And people in Austin love good food. I think everyone knows we love barbecue, but I can just confirm it's true. Austin loves barbecue. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good place. People enjoy just kicking it. It's a relaxed atmosphere.
I just went down and visited over the summer for the first time and got to go to like Lake Travis, which was a lot more, I would say, populated than I was first expecting. Like we went out there on like a pontoon boat and just like it was craziness, but super fun. And I agree, the food down there was really good as well. Do you watch NFL at all?
Dude, not really. I didn't grow up watching a lot of sports. There's some like Texans fans in my family, in the Texas part of my family. But my girlfriend is a Birds fan, and her family is all from Philly. So I've been adopted into a Birds fandom. So.
I was gonna say, I just wasn't sure if people from Austin, since it's not in Houston or Dallas respectively, like if people there typically choose the Cowboys or they choose the Texans.
Dude, that's actually a great thing that people might not know is how pissed we are that there's not. Well, I guess now we have the trees. We have an MLS team, but like people in Austin have been really salty for a long time that there's not a basketball team there. There's not a football team. It's like we're a big city. I love the Spurs. I love San Antonio, but like, come on. I mean, and the trees are really sick though. It is really nice now to have, I guess now it's not like that new, but to me, like in my whole lifespan, it feels very new to have any sort of sports affiliation in Austin. So, I'm stoked for us.
What's one thing that you would tell someone who's just coming up in production or music?
I think some of the like best advice I ever, I think number one is get a lawyer. That is actually useful advice, no matter what genre you make, no matter like if you are at a point where there is any sort of contract or you're putting a signature on anything, just get a lawyer. That's my number one piece of advice. Second, probably have fun, like don't forget why you're doing it. Like don't get caught up in trying to be successful or your song being a hit or like whatever. Just, remember why you are actually making your art and like continue to follow that. And yeah, I think like network laterally is one I really like. I think that's a Dave Pensato quote. I think like from his podcast, which I'm a big fan of his work, but network laterally, instead of worrying about, like I said, like what, being in the big room with all the hotshot producers and like big artists, just like find the people who are on your block, like at your level and you're friends with and you like hanging out with and you like learning things with, because you'll make the freshest, coolest things that way. And you'll have a good time. Because I think, if you jump into those really mega big rooms and like you don't feel confident in yourself yet, it can be a really bad experience. It can make you feel like you're not worthy of being there, which is like never true. Or like, you know, it's those rooms aren't as fun as like they might seem. It's always better to just like find the people that you respect that are doing the things they love, like in your sphere, and just like grow with them, you know, find the long-term collaborators and homies, and just like support them and be supported by them, you know?
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Is there anything else that you want to promote here? Like, do you have any upcoming tour dates? Obviously, I know you have this album that's going to be coming out next year. Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I would love to promote the album and my first headline tour, which I'll be doing in May. I believe the first date is in LA at the Echo on May 1st. I think we're locking in some other stuff, but the headline tour will be in May, and the album, I'm not going to quote an exact date right now, but at the moment it's right around that same time, you know? So, I love this album. It's very much like, I've just had the most fun making this music, you know, than anything I've ever made in my career. And the headline tour is going to be like a big, step up as far as my live sets go. So like whole new production, and I'm very excited. A lot of cool music and cool shows coming up in 2025. It's gonna be fun.
I can't wait for it. Again, I really appreciate you coming on here. I know you've got a ton of shit that's been going on recently. I've honestly just outside of this, I've just always been a huge fan. So it's awesome to get to talk to you. And if you're ever in Columbus, you need to let me know, because I'll definitely come and see that. We're in Ohio here, so.
Sick. Hell yeah. No, I appreciate that. And like, seriously, man, thank you for the kind words and taking the time. And I will, thank you guys. And sorry I was a little late there. It's been a hectic morning, but no, I appreciate y'all.
It's all right, dude. I made sure I had nothing but time, but you have a good one, brother.
Yeah, thank you so much.